So we are back. Special Ed Advisory is back. Welcome to our March meeting. We have meeting minutes from a long time ago to accept as sort of our first action step. I can bring it up here. Hold on a second. Yeah, sure. Oh, hold on a second. Somebody's joining. Hi, welcome. All right, I will find our last meeting minutes to pull up and we can review them before accepting them. Somewhere on here they are.
4920.
This thing.
There you go. I'm always amazed at how you young people can do this so quickly.
Brings back memories.
You know, I was at a conference last year and I'm sitting there trying to follow along and writing with my pen and paper. And there was Samantha Davies is sitting right next to me and she's like taking a picture with her phone, swipes it and it lands on her iPad. And then she's like typing on her iPad. I'm like, how are you doing this? And I'm like 3 slides behind trying to scribble in the best handwriting I can get.
All right, so these are our minutes from last April, the last time that we met. So I'll just scroll through them quickly. Stop me if you have any questions as we go through it. We did not have a Director of Special Services report for our school committee report. Sean Galligan reviewed a lot of information about the Budget Commission, which at that time was still sort of beginning. So a lot has changed since then, but this was the status of that committee back last April. We talked about some virtual options and having a continuing fund for the committee. We recognized some of the, talked about recognizing some of the unified teams at the school committee meetings.
When was that?
This was from last April.
That's the last meeting.
Wow.
Who's online? Yeah? Is that Jeff Padilla?
No, she's
Leah.
not. Leah's here.
Let's see.
Oh,
There you go.
Hello, everybody.
sorry.
It's Mary Townsend over here.
Sorry I interrupted.
Oh, that's all
I
right.
didn't realize you were online with people.
It's just let's see. We also talked about possibly sharing some of the Special Ed Advisory Committee information with the Budget Commission to help them along with special ed processes. We talked about ratios of students to teachers. Again, more information about the Budget Commission. There was a slight transition program update, talking about the website that was created last spring, and more information about that. We briefly talked about some transportation concerns, talking about maybe in the future moving forward with some different procedures, putting some things in place for safety. Under old business, we talked again about an acronym resource that we have. It's linked in there, and I'll share these minutes out with everyone so that you can follow that link as well. I think I put it on our website too, but it's just sort of a resource for parents that has a lot of different acronyms that we use all the time in special ed that we forget that not everybody knows. But if anybody has any suggestions or other things to add that we might not have put in there, feel free to share it and we can always update it. We did not talk any further about membership or presentations moving forward after that. We did have some information shared from with regards to ABLE accounts. So there was information with regards to the website and the brochure for ABLE accounts. We had a lot of recognitions, so those will be shared there, and then these will also be shared with each of the individuals who are recognized. It's always nice to see a nice long recognition section. And that's pretty much it for the notes. If anyone has any questions or edits or would like to move forward with approving them. Okay,
Need a motion.
sounds good.
You need a motion.
I
wasn't there.
I don't know. We technically, I think, need to move forward with some of the pieces of the committee. Like with membership, like we don't have like structured formalized membership. So like we even have formalized members to be making motions. Every time we have tried in the past to talk about membership, we need to have a certain percentage of the meeting be mostly parents. So we've talked of some different ways of increasing participation, but those have sort of been some of our roadblocks to moving forward with things like membership and the bylaws and things like that. So yes, if everyone agrees that they should be accepted, we'll go with that.
Would agree.
Okay, yes.
I wasn't there, so I can't vote, but I would say yeah.
I think I was there, but I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah, Mary, go for it.
Have we thought about having, Reagan actually is that formal piece of special ed advisory committees. On behalf through the state, they run the WSEAC events. Of having someone from the Reagan come because they know all the rules and all the dynamics of whether or not we follow Robert's Rules of Order, or I know you already know the percentage of parents to other people based on that, but there's a little bit more to it. So I don't know. Currently, are you functioning in that role as a leader, you and Steve?
It's actually it's Caitlin and Jen
Okay.
are the leaders.
Oh, because Jen's just not on yet. Okay, then that would be my suggestion that somebody from Reading can do a presentation, and maybe we could put it in a more centralized location where parents will come.
Absolutely.
Does that sound?
I'll put that in the notes for this meeting.
Okay,
Thanks, Mary.
now I'll be quiet.
No, that's okay. So next on our agenda is a Director of Special Services report.
All right.
If you want to update us on
Sounds
how things
good.
are going.
Yeah, so I didn't know that was something I was supposed to do, but now I do. So I'm about 3 weeks into this job. So in the future, obviously, I'll be sending in a report for you guys. All right, so it wouldn't just be me, ad-libbing it up here. So like I said, I've only been in the job for a few weeks, but I've been in Warwick since 2000. I've been a teacher since 1997. So this is my 29th year. And I made it a point during all my years in Warwick as a teacher to do every job I could at Aldrich. I was at Aldrich for a while. Then I became the department head of Aldrich and Pilgrim High School. So I've been in Warwick for a long time, and I know Warwick. All right, and I know many of the families and the teachers and the TAs. So I feel like that part of the job I don't have to learn. But I've also been around for a lot of the changes that have happened over the years, good and bad. And I've learned from them. So, in my early stage so far, there were things that I know are weaknesses of mine that I wanted to shore up. And one of them was Early Learning Center. I don't know if anybody here has a child at the Early Learning Center, but I have spent quite a bit of time with them, just learning from them, asking them to tell me how they do their job. And I got to tell you, I didn't meet a bad teacher or TA. They were all excellent. They were very nice people and very, very committed to their students. So some of the things I will talk about would be our bridge program. I know that was a problem about a year ago, and we made some significant changes to that program. For those who don't know what bridge is, that's our transition classroom. That is for our students who stay with us after graduation, and they stay with us until they're about the age of 22. Well, they can stay till the age of 22. And the goal of that program is employability, working on students' ability to work and live independently. And since we've made those changes that we've done, it's really been going very well. The focus is being out of the classroom, being at job sites, using and utilizing community resources. Those are the important things for them to know, and that's what they've been working on. So usually the students are out of the building Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, either at a job site, or we rent an apartment right now from West Bay Collaborative, 3 days a week or 4 days a week. I'm not quite sure exactly how many days, but we rent an apartment from them at the what's the name of the apartment complex right behind the Warwick Mall? Philadelphia.
Mhm.
Philadelphia. And I just re-signed the contract for the summertime as well. So that would also be extended through ESY. And that has been working out great. It is a 2-bedroom apartment with a kitchen, a dining room, and a living room. Students are learning to clean. It also has a bathroom. They're learning to clean. They are learning to cook in the environment, and they're learning how to live in their own apartment. How to basically take care of themselves. And the teachers have been doing a great job with that, and the TAs. There's also a gym on site. So they've been learning how to utilize, like if you're living in an apartment complex, utilize the services around them. So it's been going very, very well. We started that around September. And actually, the reason why we kind of fell into it was because a tree fell on our building. July 4th, we had that major storm. And a tree fell through the roof of the Pilgrim Annex. And we couldn't use the Pilgrim Annex for several months. And that was one of the solutions we came up with. And it worked so well that we continued. And it's been going great. So if you happen to be a bridge parent or you know somebody who is, I'm sure they've been saying pretty good things about it lately. Other things that I've put as the top things for me to worry about, I guess would be the word, but to address. One is we have a special education guidebook that's 10 years old. And I love Dr. Conley. She was fantastic. And she wrote that guidebook, and it was a lot of work. It really was. But 10 years has passed since it was written. And some of the stuff that's in it doesn't necessarily match up with how things are. So I want to reopen the guidebook, but I don't want it to be Steve Carter wrote this guidebook. Here you go, as if I'm, it's manna from heaven, and now everybody follow it. My feeling is that it should be a collaborative effort that involves the teachers in trying to write a guidebook that really matches with what we're doing. And I don't want to say like what we're looking at. I want to have a separate section of the guidebook dedicated to the Early Learning Center, because right now that guidebook kind of lumps everybody together, and the Early Learning Center is not the same as elementary schools, and the elementary schools are not the same as the middle and the high school. So I think a guidebook should reflect that. There's a lot of alphabet soup in that guidebook that is very confusing to a lot of people. I'd like to eliminate that piece of it as well. Get back to a little bit more of a simple use for parents and for teachers instead of all those acronyms. And I'm sure some of you have heard it: IASE, IES, SES, IA, SA. We have a million different things out there. It's time to streamline that a little bit for ease of use. So those are some of my priorities. Right now, one of my big priorities is really working on the transition from the early learning center to kindergarten. Sometimes it doesn't go so well, and it's understandable. The teachers, when they're making their recommendations, are in the prediction business at that point, right? They're guessing as best they can as to how this student is going to perform in the next environment that they're in. And that next environment is so drastic from the one the student is coming from. They're at WELC and they have a class of 7. And then they go to, Warwick Neck and they're in a class of 22. How are you really going to know how they're going to react to that? Some kids, it's pretty easy. Yeah, we know exactly where they're going to go in the next year. But one of the things I want to change our focus on when changing from early learning center to kindergarten is not just how are they going to do next year, but what do they look like 5, 10, and 15 years from now? Because 15 years down the road, that very 3-year-old that you have in your class is going to be crossing the stage at Pilgrim or Tollgate. What do you want that educational environment to have been for that child during those 15 years? And that's the discussion that we started. I started with WELC last Friday. And they have thought about that. I don't want you to think they do anything about that. They have. But their immediate concern is what's next year going to look like. And I want us to really talk about what do the next 5 years look like. So I'm working on those things. Seeing where some of our program, for the lack of a better term, where we're failing. Like I said, I love Dr. Conley, but one of the things she created was boxes, and not every kid fits into a box. So we have a IASE program, and you look it up in the guidebook, and it tells you exactly what a student is supposed to look like who's in the IASE program. Right? But what about the kid that might need that program and doesn't look like that? So those are the things that we really want to focus on, is just trying to become flexible as opposed to rigid, which I think is what we have been, rigid in how we look at our programs and where a student belongs. I'll also mention that one of the initiatives that's coming out of RIDE, if anybody is aware of this, they have a thing called the Rightful Presence Initiative that they're going to be rolling out. David Cienko just finished it, and then he retired. He was like, I didn't want to retire without finishing this. And if you don't know what David Cienko is, he's the head of special ed, or he was the head of special ed for Rhode Island. And the Rightful Presence Initiative is how much time in the general education setting can we squeeze out of a student, in a way, right? Like their rightful spot is in the general education setting, and we got to try to get them in there as much as the student can handle. So there's a continuum of services, and we want that, and kids need that. If you have an AAP student, saying they're going to spend the entire day in a general education environment is not fair to that student, but we should be looking for opportunities throughout their day to get them in touch with their general education population students, if that makes sense, if I'm even explaining it well enough. I don't know. Sometimes I get thoughts in my head and I don't explain it as well as I hoped I did. So, and if at any point I'm confusing anybody, let me know, because sometimes I confuse myself.
Alyssa?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, I just have a quick question. Where would a parent access the special education guidebook?
You wouldn't. It's for the teachers.
Okay.
But, it's for the teachers to know exactly what their rules are, what an IEP is supposed to look like, what a service hour is supposed to look like, what are the programs that we offer, and what is the profile of a student that would go in there. For example, they have the IASE setting in that guidebook says a student who's performing in the 10th percentile or below. Oh, that would be wrong. A student in the IASE should be around the 5th percentile or below.
Say that again, Mr. Cotter. You broke up for a second on my end.
Our IASE definition in the guidebook right now says a student that's about the 10th percentile or below, but that's not accurate. The population shifted, and it had to shift, and I'll explain why. So The federal government changed the rules. They said that students in the AAP population can only be the bottom 1 percentile. And if you do not get to 1 percentile, then the federal government has its own punishments. Warwick isn't that off. So before they laid down that law last year, Warwick is about 1.4% of our population. So we only needed to get down to 1%. Other towns were much higher, between 3 and 4%. So what the state did in response is they created a thing called the DLM, another alphabet soup for you guys. But the DLM, if anybody has gone through this process, the team is supposed to do a full evaluation and to determine somebody qualifying for AAP. And the state made the requirements very stringent and very difficult to qualify. And there's not much we can do about it. That's the state rule, the regulation, and it's in accordance with the federal government. So what ended up happening is a lot of our students who once were AAP no longer qualified for AAP. So they had to move to the IASE section, which then changed the IASE population considerably. That's one explanation. Another piece of it is that a student who's at around the 10th percentile should not be in a self-contained classroom. They should be in the general education population in terms of in their day, all day long, in the general classroom. Because the 10th percentile is specific learning disability. And Leah, you've been around at the high school and you've seen kids who have specific learning disability sitting in a regular chemistry class, as they should be. And when you look at a couple of years ago, I did that analysis for the school committee. It was actually before you got on it, Leah. Was about what quartile performance does a student need to be at in order to be able to get into RIC. This was before the state was really coming down with all those new changes on graduation requirements.
Yeah.
Some of the graduation requirements are what is not even a lot. All the graduation requirements are what are the entrance requirements to get into RIC or URI. That's what RIDE based the new graduation requirements on. So we were thinking about that before they came out with it. And a student that's around that 15th to 20th to 25th percentile is capable of being successful at a CCRI, a RIC, a URI, right? A student that's around that 10th percentile, is very much capable of being successful at a CCRI, right?
Yep.
So to say that we're going to take a student who's a 10th percentile and put them in a classroom of that is going to be significantly modified curriculum isn't fair to that student. We're making it
agree.
that point that off avenues. So we have to look at that and we have to say, are we doing right? So those are the things we're looking at, that I'm looking at, because again, I've been around a long time and I saw it happen. There was a time where a lot of our kids received their special education service as a resource model, and we got away from that. And for certain kids, they need co-taught, and there are other kids they do better when they're out there on their own, and then they come back for resource. And those kids lost a level of independence, in my opinion, and I'd like to bring that back. Alyssa, you had a question?
I wanted to see if last year when we were in the meeting, we were doing the acronym guidebook there, the little dictionary of terms. I don't recall the IASE or the AAP definitions being included, and we're talking a lot about that tonight. So I think there's probably some parents who don't know what that even means.
Right.
What type might know their kids in one or the other, but they don't know what that means. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. So alternate assessment classroom, AAP, is for students around that 1th percentile when they perform, their IQ test, the cognitive testing, and their achievement testing. Those students usually have to also go through an adaptive behavior evaluation. To see an adaptive behavior evaluation looks at their daily functioning, their daily skills, right? Their independent skills. So if you have been through that process, you've been given a long questionnaire that asks like 150 questions about, can they do their laundry? Do they tie their shoes? Can they feed themselves? That population is called the alternate assessment population, which means that they don't take the state test. They take an alternative test because the classroom itself is not teaching to the general curriculum, if that makes sense to people.
It's modified kind of to each student and their abilities and needs.
Correct, but significantly. And that's why that's why it's called an alternative assessment, because they're not being held to the accountability level of taking a RICAS, right? So putting them in front of the SATs or the RICAS would not be an appropriate step to take for them.
And usually those classrooms have less students to teacher ratio. There's like 2 TAs and a teacher and 6 to 8 kids usually.
Correct. Yes. So at the elementary level, they're between 6 and 8 students. They have 1 teacher, 2 TAs. When you get to the secondary level, it moves more towards 1 teacher, 1 TA in the program. A lot of kids by that point in time usually have, I shouldn't say usually have, but many of them have a one-on-one TA.
A person.
Right. And
now, how is that different? Like, what are the main differences from an IASC from that?
All right. So an IASC is heavily modified, but it is the general curriculum that's taking place in the other classrooms. Right?
Okay.
So they're taking Algebra 1 their freshman year, but they're going to look at and focus on major components of it, and it's heavily modified. So they're not going to do straight the exact same thing that's happening in the other algebra class, right? But it is going to be algebra level material. They have to be working on that, So and honestly, I spent quite a bit of time last year working with the middle school people on their curriculum for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade IASC, and they have it really down pat. They created their own curriculum for it and have done a very good job of taking what's taking place in the classroom across the hall and modifying it to make it more accessible. And they've done a good job with that. So that's what the IASC, and they're usually around 10 to 12 in that classroom, and they usually have a teacher and 1 TA. That's the general ratio there.
Thank you.
Yes, Hope.
Oh,
You're on mute.
Oh, I love hope.
Thanks. It's been a while. I teach at Welk. I didn't get a chance to meet with you the other day because we ran out of time. So
the other one I missed. Yes, you, and there's another one. And I was
Yes,
like,
Cindy.
oh, I feel terrible. I ran out of time.
So I'm going to email you my projections. But did you say you're looking to bring back co-taught, or did I misunderstand that?
No. So there are different things in there. So co-taught wasn't as successful as everybody thought it was. It turned out that through that process, we actually weren't improving any performance. There were also other issues that involved co-taught that, neither side, us or the union, were very happy with. So that's why we sat down with the union back in the last contract negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
Because what often happens is as soon as money and medical are done, everything kind of goes off to the side, right? And they just kind of sign the contract and they move on. I didn't like that. So I actually, Meredith McSwiggan, who's on the executive board, her and I were old friends. And I just said, God, wouldn't it be great if we all got together and while the other stuff is going on, we talk about special ed and talk about what it looks like. And we did. So for 6 months, we met every 2 weeks for a couple hours. And we hammered out what we have now in the contract, which we think is pretty beneficial. So there's ratios in there to make sure that there are smaller amount of students in the classroom with IEPs, so we're not loading up any one class with kids with IEPs. That was a problem that we had, right? So you open up a co-taught section, and I have 9 kids in 3rd grade over here at Warwick Neck who need co-taught. All 9 got put into one classroom, right? And now out of the 20 something students, every single kid in IEP is sitting in one room. How's that beneficial? So like that thought of doing better with co-taught, we weren't, because the end result was we were loading classes up, and kids with who had individual needs were being all put together. So we got away from that. And I think that was, we're in that transition. We're slowly doing it over a 5-year plan, which is kids go back to their home school. Now, I shouldn't say go back, because we're not making anybody go back. One of the problems with co-taught, just so you know, is we were busing kids away from their homes and their friends to get a basic special ed service. Right? I'm in 3rd grade over at Wyman. I have my neighborhood. I play basketball and baseball. I got all these friends that are in the neighborhood. Then I get a test. Someone says I need to go to Lippet. And I'm being sent over to Lippet to get what always was kind of I don't want to use the word basic, but a reasonable special education service that could be done anywhere. So we looked at it as a fairness issue to the student and family. I just couldn't imagine being a kid in 3rd grade who got sent somewhere else to get, a general education. Does that make sense? How did I explain that well?
Yeah, you explained it, and I understand your point of view.
Yeah.
We can discuss it more when I talk about my placements, but I just find it hard to put a kid in a self-contained classroom or a more restrictive room when they would do okay with 2 teachers and 1 TA in a kindergarten room.
Right.
With a bunch of people.
Yeah, and I'll let the cat out of the bag. One of the things, and Leah's here, it's great. One of the things that I've been kicking around the past couple of weeks, because we obviously have some difficulty with, and it's not much, it's just here and there where we have a student that goes into the wrong program, right? Coming out of WELC. But we also have an issue of students showing up in kindergarten who have never been in pre-K, and they've never been in a school, and they're blowing up our kindergartens, right? Because they don't know how to behave or exist in a school as a student. What I would like to be able to do, and I'm working on defining it more. And my day that I spent with you guys at WELC was very helpful because I talked to all of them that I did get to meet about the concept of a transitional kindergarten classroom. One where we say, we don't know yet, because it's hard on to look at a 4-year-old and say, this is what they are, right? This is where they're going. This is their path. Would it be more sensible to have a couple of classrooms, kindergarten classrooms, buy us a little time to be able to get a better picture of that student and put them on the right path?
So that would be a special ed classroom.
It would be. But here's the thing, that it would be designed to continue to, and again, early stages of thought, but I have to have it done by April 1st, is constantly probing with that population where they belong, right? Like, what is their path? What is their right spot for them? And when I talk to your teachers, with the teachers at WELC, they all had like one kid in their room who were like, I don't quite know what is the right one, and getting an additional year out of them would be great. And it would also be diagnostic as well, right? So when we get the student that hasn't been in pre-K, we didn't know they existed, and then they show up at, Sherman Elementary, and they've never been a student before, and this would be one of those places where they can learn how to be a student, say like, all right, now let's get a full assessment of their path and come in that direction. Because right now, one of the problems we have is those particular students are coming to the school and they're in a classroom with 22 and they don't know how to behave as a student. Not something they've learned. So it would be a special education classroom, but it would be designed to constantly probe. Let me take you back a step. One of the problems that we have, and Caitlin is not one of those, right? Because her class runs like a top. but is worrying about students getting in trouble if I send them out to a general education classroom, or worrying that a student is going to struggle too much if I send them out. But if we never send them out, we never know, right? So that classroom should be designed to constantly say, let's put a student in this setting. Let's put a student in this setting. Let's see where they thrive. Let's see what they really belong, like what is really the right placement and pathway for them. And, you know, I can't get it out of my head. I think it's the right thing to do. I'm just trying to find a way to make it happen. If that makes sense.
All right. Thank you.
Now I just need Leah's support to do it.
You know, everything you're saying, I agree with. And I think Warwick Nick does a great job of getting the kids into the regular ed classroom as much as possible. Caitlin, am I right? There have been a couple of kids that have even exited some of the IES programs because of the growth they've had there?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. And that's not, to be totally honest, that's not really very common, is it, Mr. Carter?
Well, I would say yes and no.
Okay.
Past couple of years, we have our community of practice of, you know, the behavior programs, the SES and the IAS, and we meet quarterly. And for the past 3 years, that's been our big discussion, right? Like we sit down and we talk as a team. And I'll let you kind of.
Yeah, I think a lot of the IASC programs as well. I think it's a philosophy shift that like a lot of teachers are coming on board with the fact that like, yes, these are my students in my classroom, but they are general ed students first. So that they deserve a place in the classroom, just like every other student does. And, you know, a lot of other schools also have programs, separate programs that their students do spend a lot of time in the general ed setting. They maybe go for morning meeting in the elementary school, or they go with their specialists with their classmates. So I think it is shifting and trending that way, but just encouraging more of it.
And honestly, that was also part of the union contract that we signed, was that our students in the SES and the IAS and the IASC classrooms are on the general education teachers roster. They have a seat. Because what was happening was people would say, you know, if I came to you, Leah, as the teacher, and I said, hey, I want to bring Jimmy into the classroom, and you would say, I have no room in my classroom. I'm full, and your child isn't on my roster. But now they are, and they count. So you can't come into that room because they are on your roster and you're the teacher. So that was a big shift that we agreed to with the union because, and honestly, I shouldn't even say agreed to. They wanted it and we wanted it. It wasn't even an argument. It was, this is one of the first things we settled, and it probably took 5 minutes. We probably spent
that's fantastic.
We probably spent 3 days on the language because that's just the nature of a union contract. But in terms of the goal of what both sides wanted, that was priority number one, which was great to see the union kind of have that priority themselves. You know, so that opened up the opportunity for our SES and IAS teachers to be able to send their kids into the general classroom more often. And that just happened to coincide with our community of practice changing our focus of how much time are we getting these kids out, because they need to have that positive peer role model. And it's working great over here at Warwick Neck. These guys are killing it. And actually, you know, you walk into Adrian Phillips' room and you may see 3 students. The other, he has like 11 kids, I think, on his roster.
He's over at Sherman, right?
Yeah. And you walk into his room, you maybe see 3 kids at a time in his room. All the other kids are out. Now it gets
about that
the younger age, right? Because the younger age, they still need to learn a lot of those behavioral skills. So you're going to see more of them in those settings because they have to learn more of their control before we start sending them out. But when you get to our intermediate, our grades 3, 4, 5, you walked into those rooms, there's not many kids in those rooms because they're out and being serviced in the classroom. And part of our goal was to say, how are we preparing them for middle school if we're just keeping them locked away in a classroom? And everybody agreed, and we've been moving that way steadily in all of our behavior rooms.
That's fantastic. That's great. Great news to hear. I mean, we did it at the high school, even with the kids in IES, even in high school, where sometimes they hadn't been out of the room. We did get them in the regular ed rooms, and they were successful in those settings. They needed supports. There were days where they needed supports, but with support, the proper supports, whatever they needed, they could flourish in those settings. So
Absolutely.
the earlier we start, the better. So
Yep.
yes, I'm with you, Mr. Carter. Absolutely.
If you're regulated and under control and safe, then you
Mhm.
should be in the classroom as much as possible. When you're dysregulated and unsafe is when you're not in the general classroom.
Right.
That should
And
be
that's
our-
what's best for them at that point. It's
Absolutely.
putting the child first, you know?
They're going to learn more in the general education setting.
Absolutely. And in all ways, in their controlling their emotions, academically, there's just so much more for them in the regular ed setting, if they're able to do it.
Agreed.
Okay.
We're on the same page, Leah.
Yes, we are.
Leah and I have been together for quite some time.
Yes.
And I guess that
I was-
kind of leads us into your report for us, Leah, for school committee.
Well, I don't really have much of a report. What I would say is we've had a year of transitions as far as our special ed administrative team. We are thankful to Miss Barbara for her time with us. And in her place, we now have Mr. Carter, who is the special ed director. And we're so grateful for you, Mr. Carter, because you bring so much, so much to the department and to the students in the work school department. Right now, we are going to have an assistant. Has Kristen been appointed yet? I don't think
Kristen
so.
Costello, yes. Yeah, but
Oh, she
she's filling out to the end of the year.
She's an interim director, and she is also, she brings with her so much experience, and she is a very, very smart woman who is very dedicated to her students and the teachers. And I couldn't imagine us being in a better place with these two people in these roles than we are right now. So I'm extremely grateful for that. Beyond that, I was going to expound a little bit about how in the coming years, the next 5 years, your child should be entering, say, kindergarten. Stop me if I'm wrong, Mr. Carter. You will be that child, unless there are very intensive and unique needs, will be going to your own neighborhood school. Correct, Mr. Carter?
Correct.
And I have to say, I have had children that have gone through special ed in Warwick schools from my own home. And they were at that time able to go to their neighborhood school. So I couldn't imagine. I think there's so much to gain if we transition to that, because they need to be able to go to school and then go outside in the neighborhood and go to the Boys and Girls Club with their friends and not be on a separate side of the city where they can't have social and recreational time outside of school with those same peers. So I'm really happy that we're moving in that direction for those kiddos that are able to go into those programs that we're going to have in our neighborhood schools.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Other than, go ahead. Mhm.
I was going to say, right now, this year we did it with the kindergarten. Next year is K1. And then again, eventually it'll be, everybody.
All the
We
way through.
didn't want to pull the rug out from anybody's feet. As students establish themselves at the other school, to turn around and say, back to your home school. That would kind of
Right.
be, for lack of a better term, jerky of us, right? Like there's no other way around it. That would have
Yes,
been really awkward
absolutely.
for people. So we're doing it really slowly and deliberately. and we're hoping that this really does bring back that old community feel.
Melissa?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on what you guys were talking about. My son is, currently displaced at Hoxie, but we should be at Wyman, and we're in the first grade at a Title I school because they have the services that we need. So I actually love that idea of transitioning to the neighborhood school where they're supposed to be, because let their friends in the neighborhood and stuff. They can make friends at school and then actually play with them in the neighborhood, not go to school, make friends, and then you're displaced.
Absolutely, and I will give a caveat, right? So if it's if there's a very specific type of program a child needs, we can't afford to run it at every school, right? Because not every school is going to have that population, and next thing you know, they're in a classroom by themselves. So something like an AAP, we would run at a Hoxie, and your child has to be displaced. But if your student is not in a specialized program, they should be able to stay at their home school.
Now, even if a kid was in IASE but working towards the general education, they might be able to go to their neighborhood school eventually.
If general education setting is exactly where they belong, then they should be with their home school.
But if they do have some level of IEP needs, they will still possibly, as long as it's not a big level of need, they would still possibly be able to go to their school. Great. Love that.
Yeah, when you start to get to things like, we don't run a behavior program at every school. We don't run IASE at every school. We don't run AAPs at every school.
Yes.
Because the population just isn't there to be able to run it at every school. So we have to pick, zones. So like an AAP classroom, we have them at Hoxie, we have it at Norwood, we have it at Lippett, we have it at Park, and we have it at Cedar Hill, right? So we pick zones where we can do those types of things. I think Oakland Beach too. I'm sorry, I left them.
Yes, Oakland Beach.
Thank you.
Caitlin, Mr. Carter stole my thunder on a lot of the subjects.
I'm sorry.
Yes, no, I love the way you present it. It's great. I'm a little too high strung, for some people, so this works well. Caitlin, if you want to move forward with the agenda, or if you have any questions, if anyone has any questions.
Are there any, because in the last meeting, I know it was, almost a year ago now, but we had just started talking about the Budget Commission. I don't know if we want to give an update to parents and families about the status of what's going on with the, that might be a little longer than our time here, but.
Not it, Leah.
I will say that I got some news today that I was a little upset about because we thought we were going to get 2.5% to fund our budget, which was very crucial to this first year of this 5-year plan. And I still need to find out all the details, but I believe we're closer to receiving 1.6%. So it will be very detrimental to the school department to move forward over the next 5 years if we do not get the funds that there was an agreement on. And I'm sure we will have more information for you shortly, but that is the latest news that I received today.
That's a big hit.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
to your
is.
point, I left the Budget Commission
So-
to come here. And to your point, the more we hear, the more restrictions I feel like the Budget Commission is presenting to our district, or I'm trying to say it nicely. I don't know.
I know, I as nicely as we can.
So, okay.
You're protected
So-
by the union. Go
What?
for it.
What?
You're protected
I'm
by the
protected.
union, Mary. Go for it.
Well, even such things that were not a part of the legislation, that were not a part of the budget. My public comment was, you know what? You went through all this, you found only transparency. There was no fraud, no misuse of funds, nothing. You found not a thing that the district did except for support its students and staff. And, while there were budgetary concerns, and I won't take away from that, the bottom line is the legislation was passed. We could have done this with the general auditor without them. Legislation was
Yes.
passed. They still haven't complied with that legislation. And in addition to what they said tonight, it's a public meeting, that the district will have to present every contract that they come into with anybody, any company, to the city. That not for approval, but they're going to review every single thing that we do. I know they say it doesn't hold anything up, but we've seen the Budget Commission and some of the early on holdups that were happening. Just like tonight in talking about the dollars and cents, what's being given to the state to see if we qualify for federal funding or the federal government for the storm, what doesn't. So I'm with you on that. I do feel like we're in for it, no matter which way we go.
We're in trouble.
Yeah.
I have to be honest, we're in trouble.
And it is unfair to our students.
Yes.
Thanks, Leah.
You're welcome. When I get the whole thing, the whole story, I will post it online to make people aware of what's going on. Because I believe in transparency. I believe in letting the public know exactly what is being done. And especially, it's your children. It's your children. Your voice matters the most when it comes to this. So I'll get off my soapbox because I could go on, but yeah, disheartening.
That's a significant loss of money.
Yes, it really is. It's unbelievable, but I'll find out more information. And so will everybody else.
Next step.
Yes.
Previously on our agenda under old business, we didn't really have anything there from our previous meetings. I did add for our notes for next time, Mary, a recommendation of including Ripon. So when we talk about that next month, I'll put it under there. Under new business, I did receive one recognition of Warwick staff. So from Mary Kate Barnhart, she shared, I would like to recognize the incredible Cedar Hill special education team who has worked with my son over the past 3 years, Mr. Chris Gamache, his teacher, Miss Brenda and Miss Sharon, the teacher assistants. Their dedication, skill, and care have made a profound difference in his life. He has made tremendous strides in communication, confidence, and learning, expressing himself more clearly and growing in ways we once only hoped for. This team's commitment to truly understanding and supporting him has been nothing short of life-changing. My family is so grateful for everything they've done to help our son thrive. So congrats to their team.
Chris does a great job.
Yeah.
Yes, he sure does. I'm switching and forget some light in this room. Okay. All right.
And then if anybody has any future meeting topics or any things that they want us to talk about moving forward, we can take requests. If there's anything that is out there that people are hearing about that needs to be addressed or needs to be brought to this committee, then we're happy to add it to an agenda.
Okay.
All right.
Caitlin, thank you so much for getting this meeting rolling again. We appreciate you.
We don't have a next meeting date yet. We'll still TBD, but we won't wait quite so long for the next one.
Won't be a year from now.
It won't be 2027.
To all the parents out there, thank you so much for attending the meeting, as well as Hope. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, unless anybody else has any other comments, questions, things before we wrap up.
Thank you.
All right,
Everybody have a happy spring. Oh, one more thing. The Special Olympic basketball, unified basketball game. Yes. Caitlin, what's the date for that and where?
March
28th.
28th.
It is March 28th.
Yes, 2 sessions.
There's a morning session and an afternoon session,
Won't be so
depending
crowded.
on the schools.
Like last year.
Yeah.
So spread it out a little bit more.
Yeah. It will not disappoint though. It's going to be amazing. The kids are going to love it, and it's their day to shine. So let's come
Yeah.
out and support them. Yep.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you all. Bye-bye.